What is happening, sports fans? It's your main man, Matt, from the DFS 5-pack, rocking it solo. It is Monday, June 27th. We have a big over tonight. Not too massive, only 9 games, but big enough where we should have some fun. It's a nice size slate. I like when it's, 10 or under. I like small slates, honestly, best for MLB, but the 9 gamers are fun when they're not too big, like 14, 15 games. So I like these 9-game slates or these 5 to 10 game slates. It should be a fun one tonight. Mondays, things always play out a little bit weird, so know that going in. This is definitely an interesting one to talk over tonight. Before I talk over the MLB slate, I'm going to shout out our real quick. ABC Islands. If you haven't checked them out, I don't know what you're waiting for. The link and the promo code are in the description section. Please go ahead and give them a look. I'd really appreciate it, and I think you all will be very encouraged by what you see. We've had a lot of people on there already making money, so you should be the next. Again, the link and the promo code will be in the description section. Let's hop into this MLB slate. Let me share this screen, and we'll dive in. We should be good to go. Give me 1 second, guys. All right, I am back with you guys. All right, as far as pitching options go, do a position by position. Kevin Gausman, expensive $9,800 price tag. Finally coming off a good outing, was solid last time out in Chicago. Hasn't been great this year, though. It was very good at the beginning of the year, then has fallen down considerably. That said, we know his upside is real. Not projected to be too highly owned just because there's some cheaper pitching options that look really, really good tonight. So I like Gausman in tournaments. Tyler Anderson, no thanks. He's too expensive. Tough spot in cores. Pablo Lopez, another guy I think is intriguing in tournaments. Always prefer him at home. This year's no different, but he's been really good on too. He's not going to get any love, and that in itself intrigues me for sure. On paper, though, tough to say he's like the best choice on paper, just a tournament look. We're going to get to some guys that look really good here. Martin Perez, I put him in the same boat as Pablo Lopez. Not quite as good of a look as Kevin Gausman, but also a little bit cheap. Tristan McKenzie right there with those guys. Don't think his upside is quite as high, but not going to get any love. And I think a solid look at 8,800. Some we don't have much interest in. Then we get to some guys who are getting love. Lucas Giolito. He has not been good lately. Negative in his past 2. The 3 before that, wasn't very good, but kind of like Gausman. Proven track record with Giolito. Good strikeout spot, in LA against the Angels, outside of Trout, Ohtani, and Taylor Ward. Maybe Jared Walsh. That lineup is not good, so he's way too cheap. We have not seen Giolito this cheap in forever, so I'm interested just in that alone. All righty. Jordan Montgomery, also too cheap. 8K. He's been too cheap, it seems, recently, but at least in those spots, they were tough spots in Tampa, in Toronto. Last time we saw him in an easier spot against the Cubs at home. Dropped 26. I like him here for a similar type score. He looks like a real look at all formats. Projected to be popular, but not like overwhelming chalk, and I understand the ownership. He just looks good here. Still no starter for the Pirates yet, so that's why all these guys are still listed. Give me 1 second, guys. All righty, I am back. Sorry, no more disruptions, I hope. All right, no Pittsburgh starter yet. Then we get to Adam Wainwright, who this is a guy I always preferred home against the Marlins. I think he's fine. You know, if there wasn't, Giolito, Montgomery, and Kirby right by him, I think Wainwright would be getting a lot more love. As it stands, he's getting a little bit of ownership, but not a ton. Then we get to George Kirby. He's just way too cheap at 7,100, excuse me. I mean, he's got his underlying metrics are really, really good. This is one of the top pitching prospects in baseball. Barely walks anyone. You see him throwing 95-plus pitches basically every start. He dominated this Baltimore lineup in Baltimore on paper. I think he's probably the best P on the slate. Then we get to Cool, Blackburn, Fetty, and Wells, all interested. I think you could potentially look at in tournaments, knowing that there's very high variance here. Hasn't pitched to the majors. Really tough spot against Toronto. Oh, sorry, I thought we had froze for a second. I think we're back. Really tough spot against Toronto. But this guy was dominating in the minors. Not dominating. He was really, really good in the minors. So no reason to think he, couldn't pitch well here. And at 4K, it's not like you need a ton. That said, it's not like you really need those pitching options or cheap pitching either with, value bats all over, especially in Colorado. So I think the guys that are going to garner the most ownership are Montgomery, Kirby, Giolito, and then like Gausman and Wainwright after that, with Syndergaard getting like a tiny bit of ownership or a little bit of ownership, like maybe close to 10%. But really, I expect Kirby to be like uber chalk. Kirby, Montgomery. I guess Giolito will be mixed in there too. But even like Gausman, Wainwright, Pablo Lopez, these guys are going to be low owned. So in tournaments, I understand getting different there. In cash games, you just pair Kirby with Montgomery. Probably just leave Giolito out given his recent form. All right. That's for cash games. It's going to be basically all about the Dodgers here. I mean, in cores against Chad Kuhl, they're way too cheap. There's just so much to like about the Dodgers here. So a catcher, no surprise. Will Smith is obviously the top dog here. You can only play 5 Dodgers in any given line, so you're going to have to look at some other guys. But Smith is by far the top catcher on the board. Great form right now. I mean, check the game log. He's just a really good hitter. Forget being a good hitting catcher. He's just a good hitter. After that, Alejandro Kirk. I mean, dude continues to rank the game log. I mean, he is having a monster year for Toronto. Been one of their most consistent hitters. A lot to like about him there. And then the drop-down guy, I think, is Mitch Garver. I have some interest in Texas here. He hasn't been great, but he's got big power against lefties. He can't catch, but I expect him to be in the lineup. In tournaments, I kind of like the Nats, depending on who's on the mound for Pittsburgh. So Keibert Ruiz, he's cheap. But all 3 of those guys look like the top catchers on the board. With Smith clearly getting the most love. First base, surprise, surprise, top first baseman in cash games is going to be Freddie Freeman. I mean, again, only can play 5 dots. You want to play 5 of them, like no doubt about it. He looks great here. Just plug him into your cash game lineups. Out a borderline lock. I like Josh Bell a lot. He is getting a little bit of ownership, coming in as the second highest owned first baseman, but he's cheap. He's locked in right now, kind of like the Nats, as I mentioned. So Bell is high on my short list. I don't mind the Rangers. So Nate Lowe, lefty on lefty, won't get any love. Cheap if you do want to spend up on pitchers. Carlos Santana got traded, so don't use him. Yeah, then obviously Vlad Guerrero. It's kind of another pivot off of Freeman. Toronto stack wildly play here, especially with the Dodgers getting so much love. For all I said about Seabold being in play, obviously, the other side of that, being the Toronto stack is certainly a look here in tournaments, like for sure. All right, second base. He's getting the most love here at second and third, so I would play him at one of those positions in cash games, depending on where you want to play him. Marcus Semien against the lefty. He looks good here. Has cooled off a bit, but he still is a guy I'm interested in with his power and speed upside against the lefty. Cesar Hernandez, presumably leading off for Washington. Definitely on my short list here as a cog type in the machine. Gavin Lux, if he makes the lineup, will also be wildly in play. Don't mind Brendan Rodgers against the lefty, although Tyler Anderson's been pretty good. I don't really want to go out of my way to pick on him. Second base is kind of weak, though, so I don't hate it. Don't mind Adam Frazier either. Seattle's a team that won't get any love, and they're a little bit intriguing just because, not that Wells is like awful, but he's not good, and the Baltimore bullpen is not great, despite them being semi-decent throughout the beginning of the year. No problem with the Seattle stack in tournaments. All right, third base, already talked about Max Muncy, so if you want to play him there, do your thing. The other third baseman you're going to look at in cash games is Turner. Want all Dodgers here. Talked about the Turner, so if I were stacking them, I'd use Suarez. Devers and Ramirez are in play every round. Probably would rather Perez here. If I'm picking a one-off, I'd rather have him facing Sonny Gray than Kevin Gausman, but I get the case for either, especially given Gausman's current form. Haven't mentioned the Yankees much. Don't mind LeMahieu here. Obviously, we'll get to their outfielders. O'Neill Cruz at shortstop. So third base is kind of loaded in that stack. Matt Chapman, Josh Smith, presumably leading off for Texas. You don't really need the salary, so maybe he doesn't get a ton of love, but nice filler piece if he's leading off in all formats for sure. All right, shortstop. Shockingly, Trey Turner is going to be the guy you want. But again, I'll reiterate, you can't just play all Dodgers. That said, Trey Turner is a priority with Freeman, I think. It's tough, but Turner, Freeman, Muncy, Smith, you want as many of those guys as you can get, and then fill it in with the rest. But Turner's just elite in all categories, so there's a ton to like about him. Tim Anderson as a pivot is interesting just because you can, if he gets on 3 times, he could have 5 stolen bases today. Seager also interesting. Lefty on lefty won't get any love. So, slightly interested in those guys as pivots. O'Neill Cruz up to 3,800, but still probably too cheap for his upside, given the fact that he's got big power and can run. Didn't even talk about Bo Bichette, but goes without saying all the Jays are in play as well. Is anyone really cheap to like? Not really. Definitely looks like a spend-up position. A couple good mid-tier pieces, but mostly high-end at shortstop. And then in the outfield, not getting as much love as those other guys with the Dodgers, Bellinger, Chris Taylor. Talked about Gavin Lux. Those guys are all getting love as they should. Also getting love, probably my favorite on the slate is going to be Juan Soto. Walked 4 times yesterday. Gotta love that. I like Washington here. Soto's obviously the top piece. Aaron Judge, just got 28 homers already, so hard to say he's not in play any and every slate he is on. As far as stack I'm looking at right now, the Blue Jays look good. They're coming in a little bit under-owned. I like Washington, as I mentioned. Texas looks pretty good. And then Seattle, I think, is a team that's not going to get any love. And I'm interested in them, especially coming off yesterday's fiasco. We'll have their guys back in the lineup. I can see them having a night tonight. So that's what I got for you guys. I'm available this afternoon if you have any questions. If you want more content, more videos, more write-ups, any of that stuff, go check out the DFS 5-pack. We'd love to have you. With that being said, I'll catch you on the flip side either tomorrow or Wednesday. Thanks, guys.